Hi, I have £10,000 saved up and would like to know ways I can buy my first property in the UK. I'm based in London and work freelance on multiple projects. Any step-by-step tips would be amazing. Please, if you're enjoying this content, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and that subscribe button. Really helps push this out to many more people to enjoy this also, and so you can be notified for when more videos like this are being released. So yeah, first of all, a massive congratulations for saving 10k up, especially living in the city. If you live in the city in London, the cost of living is so expensive, so you have to earn quite a margin to be able to save, and this is the trap everybody gets into when you're living in the city. It's a great city and you earn a lot, but the cost of living's a lot, so sometimes it don't always balance itself out. But yeah, 10k, massive well done for saving that up. But in the grand scheme of property and investing, it's not a hell of a lot of money, so you've really got to be careful about your strategy and your structure of the way you move forward with this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over some strategies that I think is applicable if you've got 10k, and I'll just go over the list of them all, and then I'll go back into them all individually and tell you how and the logistics of each of the ones that I'm going to suggest. There is some different ways and all of them are dependent, but the first thing I'm going to touch on before I go over the list, well, let's go over the list quickly. I won't touch on that. So you've got invest in yourself, very important thing. I'll touch in that a bit more, but investing in yourself is very important. You are your number one asset, so you want to make sure you invest in yourself, in your knowledge, in your progression, in your accountability. Potentially look for partners, look for loans. You could look for private loans or just loans. I'll go into this in depth in a minute. I'll just go through the ones that I've listed here. You could buy your first property in your own name and get consent to let, with a lower deposit. You can do rent to rents, or you could do deal packaging getting into property. But now I've gone over the list of the ones that I feel are potential. Now I'm going to go, let's go back into what I was going to start with. Everything's independent on the individual, on the independent person's circumstances and reasons why they're getting into it. I call it your property why. We've all heard of what is your why, but what is your property why? What do you want to get from it? Do you just want a side income? So like I've just completed on one yesterday. I'm not sorry, it's got delayed to Monday. We're completing on one for my investors on Monday, and he's a chiropractor, loves health. He's into fitness. He's a health coach. He's got his own practice and clinic, and ultimately he hasn't got a passion for property. He just wants to invest his money. He wants to invest his money in a better vehicle. So first thing I say to anybody, find out what your property why is, what you into it for. Is it just for some sort of side income to better returns, or you really enjoy property? Do you want to give up your day job? These are all questions you need to be asking yourself, because ultimately as a result of your answers will be a result of the plan you want to get into. So for example, if you just want the side income, you probably won't go into rent to rents, because rent to rents is really intensive on management, and there's rarely enough margin in it to hire a property manager or not hire a property manager, but hire a managing agent. So rent to rent's really intensive, but a great strategy if you want to get out your job and get into property full time. So you've really got to look what your property why is. There's 4 different types of property investor. I feel you've got your hands-free type of investor. You've got your hands-free. You've got your part-time, you've got your solopreneur, and you've got your entrepreneur. So depending where you sit in that quadrant, I've modelled this quadrant off of Robert Kiyosaki. Let's show it up here. So you've got your hands-free, part-time, solopreneur and entrepreneur. I modelled this off of Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not sure if you can see that, guys, but depending where you're going to sit in the quadrant will depend on your strategy going forward. So I'll explain a little bit about each of these ones. So your hands-free is exactly what my friend is. He's a chiropractor, health coach. He's got no interest in running the property business, but he wants his money into property. So he happily pays somebody a fee to do it for him. That's a hands-free. You've got your part-time. I know a guy that works for Google. He's got a good job. He really enjoys what he does, but he enjoys actually doing property viewings and being involved with it. So he wants to do it on the side, but he don't want to give up his job. So that's a part-time. You've got your solopreneur, somebody does full-time in property, but they are the business. They might have an assistant, but everything's done by them. They do the viewings, check-ins, fix the leaky taps. They are the business. It's not really systemized. It's all in their head. And then you've got your entrepreneurs, investor that is set up as a business to operate with or without them. So systems, processes to hire people, manage people, run and operate without them. And depending you where you want to be in that quadrant will massively be dependent on your strategy going forward. Quite often you have to start in certain places that you're not at. So everybody has to pass through the solopreneur to get to entrepreneur. You can't just skip from day one and come into entrepreneur. You have to go through the quadrants, and often people start here part-time or hands-free. Some people start hands-free, pay somebody else to do it for them. Like I've invested for a cabbie. He's built up 7 properties. He had a few already. He's now earning enough money to slow down his cabbieing work so he can go part-time. And then he'll go across to here into solopreneur and maybe do the jump from here. But what you've got to remember, the jump from solopreneur to entrepreneur is tough, and it takes a consistent effort, and it often takes you taking a few steps backwards in your earnings and everything to step forward. Because when you start hiring staff and getting systems and processes and start learning to manage them, it takes a little time and investment of your time and investors and your money to accommodate that little growth forward. But that's how you grow forward. But a lot of people get stuck in the solopreneur because they feel like they can do it better themselves, or they just don't want to outsource it, or they outsource it once and get put off. But the reality is outsourcing, like I hear people say on rent to rent, just hire a property manager. One deal could pay for your property manager. If only it was that easy. Hiring people is very, very difficult. Finding talented staff is very, very difficult. Finding talented people that ain't already got a job is very, very difficult. Especially if you've just got your first rent-to-rent property, you've got no experience in that. You've got to then persuade somebody. Anybody that's talented is already in a job. So then you persuading them to come to you on your first little deal that you have done, or your first few little deals that done, is difficult because they've got their pensions, their security, there's lots of logistics with it. And even when you hire them, and even if you find somebody good, you've got to keep them managed and keep them engaged. There's loads of logistics to it. I'm not saying don't do it, but it's just not as simple as saying let's hire somebody, they're going to ride in on a white horse and shiny armour and to save you so you can then go sit on the beach. If anybody's never read the E-Myth, go and get that. And that's if you want to be an entrepreneur, then read the E-Myth, because it's a fantastic book. It's like a Bible to property investors. So let's go over these strategies. So first of all, you want to know where your why is. What do you want to be? So advice, like, do you want to give up your job? These are questions. If you put them in the comments, I'll happily answer now on the live or later on when you catch up with this, if you're not on there now. Do you want to be entrepreneur? What part do you want to be with this? You said you're a freelancer. Again, it's dependent on your time and energy of what you can put into it. So for example, let's start off. My first deal was a remote deal. I live just on the outskirts of London. I was born in Stratford, but we moved out to, it's still on the inside of the M25, but it's just the start of Essex, on the edge of London, the edge of Greater London. And it weren't an investing area. And I've invested in the north. I won't tell you my full story, but I've started investing in the north because it was just too different. The barrier to entry around here is just too high. The returns are too low, and the money you have to leave in deals if you want to do single lets is too much. So I've done remote investing, and the barrier to entry. My first property was around 40k. There was no stamp duty back then, so I needed 13k in total. That was refurb, everything. You know, so I spent a couple of grand on the refurb. I spent a few hundred, about just short of £1,000 on the legals and everything. No stamp duty back then. But that said, we got an offer accepted yesterday on one for £39,000. So there's no stamp duty on that. Yes, is there pros and cons of buying cheaper properties? Yes. Is there pros and cons of investing far away? Yes. Ultimately, you've really got to get to understand an area. But there's a thing called collaboration. So this is one of your options. You could partner with somebody or collaborate with somebody. The deal I done yesterday was with a sourcing company, and Daniel and Jez from Cove. It was so inspirational. Daniel's from down this way, and Daniel's from up northeast, and Jez is from down this way. And they collaborated. He just went online and went, I'm coming up to Newcastle. You went to remote property invest. He was from around London. He's gone up to Newcastle. Said, anyone I'm meeting up for a beer? He's met up with this guy called Dan, and a year later they're smashing it. They're buying four or so properties a month. Deal packaging. So that's another option that you can look at, is deal packaging. But if you find somebody in that area, which is easier than ever, that's how I ended up in Stockton-on-Tees, is I met a guy. I'd done it by luck. It was 11 years ago. Social media, online network at places wasn't what it was then. But luckily enough, this guy moved down from the north and met a girl that I knew. I got really friendly with him. He'd done over 100 deals in the area, and he guided me into the area first of all. So I'd done that by luck. But ultimately, you can do that online today. And as I said, Jez and Dan are a great example of that. Go online, put your hand up, communicate in these communities, on all the different ones. There's lots of different platforms where you can find like-minded people. And find something. You've got to qualify, disqualify everybody you're going to work with, you know. So you have a stringent process to make sure your values align, make sure your future goals are the same, make sure you can both commit the same sort of time to it, make sure you can both commit the same sort of financial package to it. And if you can't, make sure there's a fair exchange. So somebody's got a bit more money, somebody's got to put a bit more sweat equity in, or somebody's got a bit more experience and contacts, they might have to put a bit more money in. Just make sure them exchange points are fair and written out. But this is a great strategy. As I said, you could buy a house in the north for that money. You've got to be careful, you've got to research it. I've just bought in a completely new location, so I've been coaching people how to buy new locations and buy remotely, because it's so difficult to buy locally. But I thought, you know what, why don't I do it myself? So I bought in a completely new location. You know, I've just bought this one we've just done yesterday's in Darlington. I do not know Darlington at all. And I've used the methods. I've just reached out to people I know in the area, credible people, asking them questions, got advice from somebody who's very, very credible in the area. And yeah, it's made me comfortable enough to go and buy that deal, you know. So definitely can be done if you look at and partner with people. You probably put this one first, is invested in yourself. There's so much controversy around, should you use a coach, should you invest yourself, fake gurus and all this sort of stuff. Listen, coaches are like anybody else you'll find in business. Builders, solicitors, accountants, teachers, doctors, anything that's got a human being involved with, you're going to get a good and bad version of that, of them. You know, boyfriend, girlfriend, you're going to get good, bad version of them. So you've got to really qualify them. You get the right coach and they will exponentially give you growth and swerve you away from things. That said, you don't have to get a coach. You can just educate online, on Facebook, on YouTube, books. Books are a great way. A lot of people give away near everything they know in their books, you know. But the difference with books and online and these cheap forms of education is when you pay attention. There's no two ways about it. There's a psychology behind it. So many people ask me this. A guy signed up with a coaching thing with me the other day and he said, you give away so much on your courses. What's the difference to your actual physical course and to what you're giving away in content? I said, the massive difference is, one, you're going to get loads of plugins, check sheets, manuals, contracts, procedures, processes, all stuff that takes time and effort to put together, all on editable documents. Number two is you're going to get accountability, which is the massive one. When you pay attention. If you get something for free, if I read a book, like this is an example, I read a book in loads of books, there's some great books over there. One I can see straight away, Master the Rockefeller Habits, 90-day planning, you've got to do it. Doing your P&Ls, got to do it. These are things I don't enjoy. It don't match my profile. I even went to Bali and this is the difference between training and coaches with the accountability. So I went to Bali with a guy called Roger Hamilton, entrepreneurial. Simon Zucchi's been one of the talkers in here. Simon Zucchi, he's coach as well, business coach. I went and done his training. It was a 2-week intensive, and they were saying if you haven't done your P&Ls, if you haven't done don't do your 90-day planning, you're at level 0 of business, no matter how much revenue you're generating. And that hurt my ego at the time, so I thought I was this entrepreneur, and it was like, no, the reality is I'm there. I've come back. I've got a team as well. They say outsource it. Just hire people. I had a team. Right, let's get these P&Ls done. Let's get this 90-day planning done. And it just didn't get done. And it wore off as I got back into the thick of the day-to-day. Like, there's a hustle and a grind when you're growing a business, and never if you really want to get growth, and especially if you're starting with 10k, the reality is you need to put in a lot of work. So that's why I say it's depending on the amount of time you have got to give to it. But if your job now, your freelance job now is busy, then you've really got to have an extra bit. You've got to put the hours in at the front end, working in the evenings, working on the evenings, weekends and evenings, because it just is what it is. You've got to work hard before you can't work hard. Yes, you can get to a position where you can choose or not, but you've got to work hard before you can't work hard. But depending on how much time you've got. But going back to the story is, I've come back into the day-to-day hustle and grind, and as we was growing, was buying quite a lot of properties, all these things fell off again. I started thinking 90-day planning, started thinking about my P&Ls, very important, to something I don't enjoy, and they fell off. And it wasn't until about 2018 when the wheels was falling off of my business and I was getting loads of stress as it grew and it was fracturing because I didn't have the foundational measures in place, is that I went, do you know what? I went and got myself an action coach, not a property coach, just a business coach, to put in fundamentals. It was my lettings company that needed this, and we put in fundamentals. I got I promoted one of the girls in there to operations manager, and we went together and we got coaching. I didn't even have the money at the time. I was right up against it. I burnt out all my money from the mistakes I was making, from the growth, and I was like, you know what, I've got a 10k overdraft and a little tiny bit of money. I went, Joe, what, I said, this property coach, he was £350 an hour. He was paying £700 a month for him because we was having one-to-ones over Skype, and then we was paying £190 per quarter to do the 90-day planning. But guess what? When I paid that, he told me nothing different from what I read in that book, from what I went on that course with, because I had accountability there every time. Your mind, in the psychology of your mind, not 80% of what you're doing in business is psychology. So that psychology is, one, I'm paying a lot of money that I can't afford to lose, and two, that accountability. I didn't want to be embarrassed when I turned back up. So you bet your bottom dollar that when I put it on there, right, I told him what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to get my hiring process better. I'd read how to hire people but didn't follow it because I was a bit embarrassed about asking the people all these questions and putting them through all these stringent tests. The process he gave me only had one or two, I think one, maybe two steps slightly different from the one I'd already put together from all the books I'd read. But when I had his accountability and him coaching me through it and giving me the confidence and the accountability, it got done. I hired people properly. When I had that for my 90-day plans, they got done. When I had that for my for the P&Ls, they got done. You know, when you pay attention. You think about it. If you bought, my mate's a car trader, and somebody traded in an I'm not a car person, so it's a Mercedes S, an S class, and he went, look at this car, 14k, 4-year-old, still the current model, it's 4-year-old. He said it's an 80 grand car. I think he give 14k for it as a trade-in. He went, I'm just about to, he said, I like it that much, I'm about to buy a newer one because he's a trader. And he's paying 50 odd k for one that's, no, it was 5 years old. He was paying 50 odd k for one that was a couple of years old. And he's like, and even he got it. He was like, look, it's exactly the same car. In fact, this one's got a few more extras for 14k. But you think about it, if you went and bought that 14k car, or you went and bought the 80 grand brand new car, what are you going to value more? The one that's brand new, even though they're exactly the same. So the psychology behind when you pay attention is absolutely massive. You want to get your money's worth. People will doubt you when you pay for something as well sometimes. You want to prove to them why, and to yourself. You have that little nagging, doubting voice. So investing in yourself is very important. I wouldn't invest a full 10k in yourself. Definitely not. If any coach has said to you, invest your full 10k, no way. But maybe 500 quid into something that's going to keep you accountable and really make you pay attention. You know, you might be able to find a mentor at your right level, because you don't need a high level mentor as well. You've got to invest in mentors at the right stage in front of you, because if you, like for me, if I went and invested in, I don't know, Tony Robbins in his business stuff, he teaches people how to take their business from multi-million pound businesses to billion pound businesses. It'd be lost on me where I'm at in my stage. As good as he is, it'd be lost on me. It's too advanced. You've got to always find that advanced level. You could probably find a mentor, the correct one. You've got to qualify, disqualify them, same as you would with a partner. You could probably find one you might be able to pay him £100 an hour and meet up with him once a month, you know, and then it'll just take you through that property journey, so you've got accountability. And you might say, okay, look, I'm looking to find a property in the north, and I'm going to pay this guy £100 a month. Reach out to some people. They might not even be mentors yet, but you go online, find people, communicate with them, see what they've been up to, see their social proof, then reach out to them. Say to them, look, do you mind meeting up with me once a month? I'll pay you £100, so I'm accountable and I don't waste your time. I'm not stealing your time, and you guide me over the next 6 months, you know, to the steps into the area, to finding. But yeah, so I really advise investing in yourself at some form of level, you know. And as I said, find the right courses that got plugins. I've done a course early on with HMOs. It was rent to rents. I'm not into rent to rents myself personally. Great strategy if you want to get out of your job. But it was rent to rents. It was a guy called Francis Doley, and the course was fantastic. I'll tell you why. It's because I think it was about £380, and it had loads of plugins. It had contracts. It had welcome packs. It had all the stuff that you have to plug in. The time and effort it takes you to accumulate that it was well worth the £380 I paid for the course. You can find courses like this. This is the courses that got most value in. They've got plugins that can get you going in your business straight away. Similarly, I've done one with Daniel Hill early on when he first started his coaching. He's about 20 odd grand now. But it's similar again, he had loads of plugins and loads of bits that I could take away and actually physically use, and it was a few £100. So, but as I said, be wary of the day courses, because you'll come off them all fired up and motivated, but motivation is like what's the word? It's like washing. You need to do it regular to keep it there, because it just wears off. You can find mastermind groups. I joined a mastermind group before, and I think it was about what did it work out? About £300 a quarter, you know, like, so about $380 a quarter. So it's not massively expensive, but you write down your goals, you're in a group, you're in that environment. The free stuff is okay, but you will be limited in your mind with the free stuff. There's a psychology, there's a knowledge action gap that we can, there's abundance of knowledge out there today. And if you don't have the right accountability and do the right mindful stuff, you're not going to move forward. We all know what to do. We all know not to eat as much sugar. We all know not to go for a walk for half hour, but knowing and doing is very difficult, you know. So this is a big part in that. There's such an argument between should you not. Similar again, the argument between should you invest remotely. The thing is, you've got 10k and you live in London, it's a non-starter. So no matter whatever benefits you get from an inside knowledge of the area, if you can't start, it's no benefit in it, you know. So yeah, like, and today technology's massively changed. I'm so inspired. Spoke to Jez and Dan yesterday. They've helped me collaborate and do a deal, you know, and I'm out there still doing deals with people and collaborating. And we've never met in person, and we've got a deal done all online. I've seen their presence online, they've seen my presence online, so there was a know, like and trust there straight away. We spoke on the phone, we've got a deal done, we've worked something out that works for all of us, all done virtually, all online, you know. So anything you can do in person, you can do online today. So do not be fooled into that only invest within an hour myth, because you can do it all virtually. Yes, it comes with pros and cons, but as I said, if you can't afford a deposit, then it's a non-starter. So you've got to work out where you are and where you and what works for you, not what works for anybody else. And that said, just because remote investing works for me, don't mean it works for somebody else. Find your why, find what you want from it, you know, find what your goals are and work the strategies that work for you, not just the strategies that work for the coach that probably wants to take your money off you, you know. Like, as I said, you've got to be wary of coaches, because there's good and bad versions of anything. The thing with coaching, the thing with deal sourcers, the thing with builders is the barrier to entry is so low that it attracts a lot of people. Like, as I said, doctors, you'll get good and bad version, lawyers you do, but because they have to go to university and college for so long to pass their degrees, it weeds out a lot of them because the barrier to entry is higher. But anything the barrier to entry is low and the earnings are high, you have to do a lot more of a stringent qualified disqualified process, you know. But find a couple, like on my programs, I'm not trying to promote myself here, but I make sure I show people this is how you qualify disqualify people, you know. So find somebody, as I said, you might be able to find somebody that's doing really well a few steps in front of you, and they might guide you, as I said. But when you pay, you will pay different attention to it, without a shadow of a doubt. It's the psychology, you know. Even Tony Robbins said about, there was a really wealthy guy come to him and, Tony, I want you to mentor me. He said, I'm between $1 million and $3 million a year private mentorship. He said, go and see one of my guys that I've trained exactly the same techniques, and it'd be probably tens of grands. And the guy was like, no, I want you, Tony. And it's because as well, because they earn so much money, they need to pay the man that makes them accountable. You know, if they pay 10 grand to them, that's nothing. You know, and similar for me at that time, when I paid £350 an hour, it was a man that made me really accountable. If I paid £30 for a course, it'd be like, I've missed courses at £30. I bought a course for £20 a little while ago and missed it. You know, and it just didn't make me accountable, even though I wanted the knowledge from it. So yeah, massive thing. Some people go, oh, should you, shouldn't you? Not. Yes, you should, but just get the right version of it. A way to do this in the north as well, if you didn't find a partnership and a collaboration, a way to do this in the north would be potentially buy it as your first home, as for your own, and then get consent to let afterwards. So you could buy it as your own house. You could have the intention of moving there. Listen, in business, you sometimes have to go in the grey hair. I'm not advising you to do this, but some people have done this. It's just a suggestion, so disclaimers, anybody out there. But if you bought it for yourself and you changed your mind, you didn't want to relocate. I did see you said you wouldn't mind relocated. If you bought it for yourself and you didn't want to relocate and you got consent to let it, that's a great way to get in. You can get 5-10% deposits, get a 50k house. 50k houses do work. Make sure you do the due diligence on the area. Make sure you research the area correctly. Make sure you reach out to people in the area, meet people. In this property world, you've got so many friendly people. Go to an area, go online and say, anybody in this area, from this area, I'm looking to come and invest in, I'm from London. A lot of their ears are prick up anyway, thinking, oh, might be able to get JV, might be able to get some investment. So they're willing to meet you and hope that they get some reciprocation. But even without reciprocation, they will still guide you and help you. I met that guy and he took me to the area. Funny enough, only probably about 5% of my contacts in the area now are from him, even though he had a vast array of contacts, because he'd done a lot of his property stuff years ago and it wasn't his main business, even though he'd done over 100 deals, he'd just done it as a side hobby. he'd stopped investing like probably 15 years ago, so he's not active now and got the same active contacts. So all of my contacts have come through my social media presence, and it's mainly, sometimes it's me, I spot somebody in the area and I communicate with them, but it's been a lot of people spotting my videos and my presence and then contacting me saying I'm from the area. I'll meet up with them next time I'm up there. And that's it. We've bonded and made some great relationships with builders, solicitors. I've done it with agents, and you've got to remember, everybody's online today. So getting that know, like, and trust. So understanding the method to building out your personal brand. So you might invest in a video, how to create content and a video training stuff. So yeah, another little option there for you. Loan, like I said, buying your first house as well in your own name helps with your stamp duty, buying future houses, because if you've got your own house in your own name, if you buy 10 houses not in your own name, first, it's a bit harder to get lending, but secondly, when you come to buy your own house, you won't get that stamp duty relief. So if you buy your first one in your name, get consent to let it, and then when you want to buy your own house eventually, you then can then move that across. You say, okay, I'm moving across, because you've already got your homeowner, you can move that across, that allowance. And if you bought in London, that extra 3% could be absolutely massive. What's the other ones I've got on here? So loans, getting loans. I got a loan from Barclays once, and you're not allowed to do this again, guys. I said, I'm happy to step in the grey area in business as long as it's not unethical. Disclaimer, do not do this, guys. I'm not advising you, I'm just telling you what I've done. And I don't not sleep at night because of it, because I knew I got a loan that I could actually pay back. So don't loan something you couldn't cover if you couldn't pay it back. So whether that's a private loan or a bank loan. But as the story goes, Barclays phoned me up one day and said, hi, Barclays here, we've got a loan for you. And I literally, it was I bought a bit of land as my first deal, which was way above what I should have done. Always in property, just cut your teeth on the buy-to-lets first. I bought a bit of land and lost loads of money trying to develop it. And I didn't develop it, by the way. I bought a flat, run out of money, had a quite nice sized pot, all in the south. This is what made me go to the north. Then I heard about other people's money, loans. I wasn't really educated at that time, and I wish I was, because I wouldn't have bought the piece of land. I wouldn't have done what I've done with the flat in Southend. But it was all part of my journey, so I'm happy with that. But I could have been in a different place if I hadn't done these moves. But as a result, I run out of money after buying a piece of land on my first flat. Well, I had a small amount left. And then I was looking online, I come across this guy called AJ, and he was saying, other people's money. And in bank loans, put it on your credit cards and things like that, you know. And I was like, oh wow, like, I really opened my eyes up. And then all of a sudden Barclays rang me up, but it was like it was a divine intervention, and Barclays rang me up and said, we've got £25,000 loan, would you like it? I was like, yeah. And I said it in exactly that tone, and that tone made the guy on the end of the phone sort of laugh back, go, what do you want it for? And I said, I'll buy a house, blah, blah, and he went, no, you can't do it, use it for business. If you said it's for a car or a kitchen for your own home, we can lend it to you. And he said, and to be fair, I can't even change it because the calls are recording. I was like, okay, because I wasn't even expecting it. He went, but I can call you back. And I knew exactly what he meant. I hung the phone up within a second, he called me back, and he was like, Barclays here, we've got a loan. Would you like it? I said yes. What do you want it for? A car? And it was in the bank at the end of the day. And do you know what? All of a sudden I changed my mind. I didn't want to buy a car anymore. Do not do this, guys. Disclaimer. Just telling you what I was comfortable with. Back then it was a lot different. It's a lot harder today. But either way, I'm just showing you an example. I got a loan, and the principle of that loan, the property paid the payments on it. And I bought refurbished, remortgaged. I put about 40k into this deal. We've mortgaged about 10k back out, 11k back out, and I bought my first house up north. But what you can remember is, as long as you've got the deposit, things like solicitor fees, things like refurbs, things like materials, things like valuation fees, all these things can be paid on a credit card as well. So if you've got a credit card and you're credit worthy, you get a credit card, so you've got your 10k for your loan and pay a lot of the other expenses on your credit card, you know. So yeah, it's a way to get started, but you've got to put an immense effort in at the front end. I noticed somebody said about other businesses, and you said, yeah, I'm in business, I do online marketing, I just want to find a way to actually get into property and as a second revenue stream, which makes sense. As I said, I'm going to touch on rent to rents. Rent to rents is a good strategy. This is dependent if you want to get out your job. It's a fantastic strategy if you want to get out your job to generate enough income to then get out your job and then start in start investing into asset classes. One of my mentors who helped me with my coaching, who I end up mentoring on his journey into buy-to-lets, is Napa. I see him sharply earlier on. He's a great guy on rent-to-rents and understanding. He understands his model, so he's built up his empire in rent-to-rents, and he's built a business. There's a difference between you managing rent-to-rents, because it's time-consuming and hard, or you build it into a business where you've got support to run it for you, which he's done. But remember, getting to that stage where Napa is will take a journey and a lot of hard graft and effort, and a lot of time at the front end. So make sure you're willing to trade that off. But always remember, it's not assets. There's pros and cons of not owning a property. Obviously, of course, the pro is you're not responsible for it, but the con is you don't benefit. So a lot of property benefits is in the wealth from properties, in the assets. Also, it's not a passive income, and it will take a while before you can hire a manager and get them to manage it for you, before you're skilled enough to do that, if you've never hired managers and managed people before. So yeah, good strategy to stepping stone, but I feel that is definitely a stepping stone strategy if you want to get out your job. If you are in your job and you like your job and you don't want to get out of that, then make sure you're happy to give up some of your evenings and weekends, because you're a property manager. You're not a property investor, you're a property manager, and it's going to take up some time, especially at the front end, as you learn all the intricate cogs and workings that go on with rent-to-rents. You can do rent-to-SAs, rent-to-HMOs. Another good strategy is deal packaging or trading properties. So you go and find them and trade them on. This is what Dan and Jez is doing really, really well. So they started off, they're only a year in, they were already trading, like, even in these times, I think last month they'd done 5 properties, you know, and traded them on. But they portfolio built it, which you'll probably get a bit more out of it, and good experience, find good builders. So if you find a location, you find it's exactly what Jez done. He went to a remote location, went online, bumped into Dan, and it's only just over a year ago. Now they're doing, like, for quite a while now, I've been following their journey, they've been consistently doing lots of deals for investors. So there's people in the south that haven't got that area effort, especially if you're from London. You'll know people as soon as you've made that effort, and it will take an effort. It will take meet the right people, qualifying them, making some mistakes, they openly share them, having some ups and downs. But if you put that effort in, other people local to you will see the effort you put in, especially if you document it. They'll see the effort you'll put in and want to give you the money to do it for them and emulate what you've done for them, because they haven't got that effort. And that's what I get all the time. People want me to buy properties from in my remote location. So deal packaging, even if you package them straight on, or sourcing, is or portfolio building, is a fantastic way, but it is a lot of effort, and you've got to make sure you get yourself experience this. Again, a little course on this. They're pretty inexpensive. I think Tina in this group, reach out to her. She could probably mentor you and guide you on that side of things. But make sure you know what to do. Make sure you get yourself compliant and understanding. Get to know the area. Don't sell on crap deals for the sake of selling on crap deals to blind people. Like, a lot of sources in the north sell deals to people in the south that are crap, because on paper they look great. They're like, it's got a 15% yield, and you buy it for 30k, and people go wow and get seduced by that. But they're crap. The reality is the yields not that, because you never collect rent on time all the time. You get wrecked properties all the time, so it's only potential yield. But you've got to make sure you get to know the area, understand it, educate yourself on that, and just don't sell on crap deals, because it'll be short-lived. You might earn 3-5k quickly, but quick money always usually goes quick, and your reputation will go quick with that. Make sure you get solid deals. It will take a time and effort into them, but again, going back to investing in yourself, make sure you invest in somebody that can teach you how to do that correctly, bypass the pitfalls. Try and invest in finding somebody in that area, or working with them, finding like, at the moment I'm in talks with Dan and Jez. They're in the northwest, and because of part of my business, I'm not gearing up as much as I used to with the buying properties for investors. I still do it, but not as large as I used to. But I'm getting loads of investors want to buy through me. So we're in talks of collaboration, you know, and because that's their main business, and they've got a hunger to do like lots of them, and I've not got a hunger to do lots of them. I don't mind doing the odd one, but I can't facilitate the amount of investors that are coming my way now. This has took a long, hard graft and consistent effort, and consistently showing up online, showing what I'm doing, and lots of ups and downs to get to a stage where I've got lots of investors coming to me. But as a result, yeah, I'm looking at collaborations. So it's so key, but I'm qualifying them. I'm sending them over my values. We've got non-disclosure agreements between both ways, you know, so they don't nick my clients and I don't nick their deals. We've got contracts. We're sitting down in talks. We've got heads of terms. So you've got to make sure you do this when you go into business with anybody, you know. But again, get the right advice and the right guidance, and you could be guided through that. But the main moral behind this is going to take a consistent effort. Maybe save up a bit more, keep on saving, but something can be done at 10k without a shadow of a doubt. But remember guys, if you don't evolve your ideas, you're never going to live on your own terms. So evolve your ideas, live on your own terms, and have a fantastic day everyone.